Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Vengeance. He looked out at the burning remains of what had been New Haven Colony. 3 million people had lived there just hours ago. Farmers, teachers, doctors, and thousands of children who had never seen war. Now there was nothing left but smoke and glass where green fields used to grow. The Zephyrian Empire had done this. They came without warning and destroyed everything. Their plasma weapons had turned homes into ash and families into memories. Jake's hands shook as he thought about his daughter Amy. She had been studying alien plants on New Haven. The rescue teams could not find her anywhere. "Sir, we have messages coming in from other human ships," said Lisa Carter from her post at the communications station. Her voice was tight with anger that she tried to hide. "Captain Ryan Hughes from the Retribution wants orders. Commander Kate Sullivan from the Warhammer is asking permission to attack. Admiral Pete Johnson from the Iron Fist says his crew is ready for war." Jake turned away from the window. Around him, his bridge crew worked at their stations. These men and women had families too. Many of them had lost someone today. He could see the pain in their eyes, but also something else. Something cold and dangerous that had been sleeping for a long time. "How many ships do we have?" Jake asked his weapons officer, Commander Ben Rodriguez. Ben checked his screen. 47 heavy cruisers, 18 battleships, and the big one, the dreadnought Earthshaker, plus all the support ships. Maybe 300 vessels total. Jake nodded slowly. For 200 years, humans had spread across the stars in peace. They had offered friendship and trade to every alien race they met. They built schools and hospitals on new worlds. They shared their art and music and stories. When conflicts arose, they always chose to talk instead of fight. The Zephyrians had seemed different from other aliens. Their ambassador, Veltar, was smart and cultured. He spoke about peace and understanding. He said his people valued art and wisdom above all things. During the peace talks, he had impressed everyone with his knowledge of human poetry and philosophy. It had all been lies. "Sir," Ben said quietly, "the reports are coming in from all the attacked colonies. The Zephyrians hit 12 worlds at the same time. They killed over 30 million people. The bridge became very quiet. Only the soft sounds of computers and life support could be heard." Jake closed his eyes and thought about Amy. She used to send him messages about the strange new plants she was studying. She was so excited about her work, so happy to be learning about life on other worlds. "They made a mistake," Jake said finally. His voice was different now, colder. "For 2 centuries we have been explorers and teachers and healers. We chose to be peaceful because we wanted to be, not because we had to be." He walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each of his officers. These people had served with him for years. They knew him as a calm man who preferred books to battles, but they also knew his history. Before he became an explorer, Jake Morrison had been a soldier. They all had been soldiers once, before the long peace began. "Lisa, open a channel 2. "Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake stood straight and spoke clearly. "Earth Command, this is Admiral Morrison. The Zephyrian Empire has declared war on humanity by attacking our civilian colonies. They have killed millions of our people, including children. I am requesting permission to show them what humans are really capable of when our families are threatened." The reply came quickly from Earth. It was President Carol Hayes herself. "Permission granted, Admiral. The safety protocols are removed. All military restrictions are lifted. Show them what they have awakened." Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Understood, Madam President. Message ends." He turned to his crew. "Ben, power up all weapon systems, the ones we were not allowed to use during peacetime. Lisa, send word to all human fleets. Tell them the war has begun." Around the bridge, his officers began working with new purpose. They activated computer systems that had been locked away for decades, weapons that had been built but never tested in real combat. Ships that had been designed for exploration were quickly changed into instruments of war. "Sir," said Lisa, "Captain Hughes wants to know what our target is." Jake looked out at the ruins of New Haven one more time. Somewhere in that burning wasteland was his daughter. Somewhere in the galaxy were the aliens who had killed her, and millions like her. They thought humans were weak because humans chose peace. They were about to learn the difference between being weak and being kind. "Tell all ships to prepare for jump to hyperspace," Jake commanded. "We are going hunting." The Vengeance and the entire human fleet began to move. In the engine rooms, power cores that had run quietly for years now hummed with new energy. In the weapon bays, missiles and energy cannons that had never been fired in anger were loaded and aimed. The Zephyrians had started this war by killing innocent people. They thought they were fighting peaceful farmers and teachers. They had no idea. They had just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Humans had spent 200 years learning to be better than their violent past. But when their children were murdered, that past came back very quickly. Admiral Jake Morrison had tried to be a man of peace. His daughter had tried to be a scientist and a healer. 30 million other humans had tried to build better lives on distant worlds. The Zephyrians had ended all of those dreams in a single day. Now they would learn what nightmares looked like. President Carol Hayes sat in the big meeting room in Geneva, Earth. Around the long table were representatives from every nation on Earth. The room had seen many crises before, but nothing like this. The reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last. 30 million people were dead. 12 colonies had been destroyed in a single day. "The Zephyrians made one very big mistake," said General Frank Stone. He was the head of Earth's military intelligence. "They thought we were weak because we chose to talk instead of fight. They have never seen what humans become when someone hurts our families." Dr. Helen Wright was Earth's best expert on alien minds. She brought up pictures and data about the Zephyrians on the big screen. Their species grew up as the strongest, hunters on their world. No other animals could challenge them. They think being kind means being weak. They cannot understand that we held back our real power because we wanted to, not because we were afraid. Secretary of Defense Alan Brooks leaned forward in his chair. "What about our secret projects? The weapons we kept hidden during the peace talks?" General Stone smiled, but it was not a nice smile. "Project Prometheus is ready to go. The new quantum torpedo weapons work better than we hoped. And the new fighter ships we built, the Valkyrie class, are already being made in our factories." President Hayes stood up. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. "For 200 years, we have shown the galaxy our best side. We explored new worlds. We taught aliens about art and science. We healed the sick and helped the poor. But before we were any of those things, we were survivors. And survivors do whatever they must do to protect their own." She pressed a button that would send her words to every human world in the galaxy. "Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, this is your president speaking. Today we learned that not every species in this galaxy wants peace like we do. The Zephyrian Empire has declared war on us by attacking our innocent people. They have awakened something they do not understand and will not survive. On Mars, miners who had been digging for metals put down their tools and picked up weapons they had hoped never to use again. On the farming worlds, men and women who had been growing food for their families remembered how to be soldiers. In the outer colonies, teachers and doctors and engineers opened old storage rooms where military equipment had been gathering dust for decades. "Send word to all the military bases," President Hayes told General Stone. "Wake up everything we have. The old warships we put in storage, the weapons we locked away, the soldiers we told to become farmers and builders. It is time to remember what we used to be." General Stone nodded and began giving orders to his staff. Across Earth, old military bases that had been quiet for generations suddenly came alive, with activity. Deep underground, in places most people had forgotten about, computers began starting up systems that had been sleeping for a very long time. "Ma'am," said Dr. Wright, "we should also think about what the other alien species will do when they see us at war. Many of them have peace treaties with us. They will learn the same lesson the Zephyrians are about to learn," President Hayes replied. "Peace with humans is the best deal anyone can get in this galaxy. But if you break that peace by hurting our people, you will face something much worse than war. You will face humans who are no longer holding back." On Luna Base near Earth's moon, Admiral Tom Brady was reading the orders that had just arrived. His base had been a training center for space exploration. Now it was being turned back into what it had been built for, a military headquarters. The young men and women who had been learning to pilot research ships were suddenly learning to pilot fighters and bombers. "Sir," said Commander Lisa Park, his second in command, "the weapon factories are asking how many ships we need." "All of them," Brady replied. "Build everything we can as fast as we can. The Zephyrians think they caught us sleeping. They are about to find out that we were just being polite." In the outer colonies, families were saying goodbye as fathers and mothers, who had been farmers and shopkeepers, remembered their old military training. Children who had never seen their parents in uniform watched as their moms and dads put on armor and picked up weapons. On Europa Station, Captain Mary Evans was explaining the situation to her crew. 200 years ago, our great-grandparents fought the bloodiest wars in human history. They built weapons that could destroy whole planets. They created soldiers who could fight in any environment against any enemy. When the wars ended, they chose to put all of that away and become explorers instead. She paused and looked at each person in the room. Today, the Zephyrians reminded us why our ancestors were so good at war. They attacked our children. They killed our families. They thought we had forgotten how to fight. Captain Evans walked to the weapon locker and opened it for the first time in 20 years. Inside were rifles and armor that had been made during the last Great War. "We have not forgotten anything. We just chose to be better than our weapons. But when someone murders our children, we remember that sometimes being better means being more dangerous than anything else in the galaxy." The ship's computer began downloading new battle programs that had been locked away since the peace began. Weapons systems that had been used only for training suddenly became ready for real combat. The crew worked quickly and quietly, their hands remembering skills their minds had tried to forget. Across human space, the same thing was happening on thousands of ships and stations. Humanity was waking up from its long peace, and the galaxy was about to remember why humans had been so feared before they chose to be loved instead. The Zephyrians had wanted to fight farmers and teachers and scientists. Instead, they were about to face the children of the most successful warriors in galactic history. And those children had just been reminded why their ancestors had been so very good at winning wars. Captain Sam Davis flew his ship, the Nighthawk, through the thick clouds of the Kepler Nebula. His ship was built for hiding. It could move through space without being seen by enemy sensors. His crew of 24 people had all volunteered for this dangerous mission. They knew they might not come home. "I see something," said Tony Garcia, who watched the sensor screens. One big Zephyrian cargo ship with 3 smaller warships protecting it. Sam looked at the display screen. The alien ships were flying in a loose formation. They seemed confident and careless. The Zephyrians had ruled this part of space for thousands of years. No one had ever dared to attack them in their own territory. "Get ready to launch the hunter-killers," Sam ordered. The hunter-killer missiles were new human weapons. Each one was about the size of a human fist, but they were very smart. They could think for themselves and change their attack plans while flying toward their targets. Inside each small missile was a quantum charge that could blow up a ship's power core. The Nighthawk released 6 missiles. They flew silently through space, invisible to Zephyrian sensors. The alien ships continued on their path, not knowing that death was coming for them. The first missile hit the lead destroyer. The ship's lights went out instantly as its power core exploded. The second and third missiles struck the cargo ship's engines. The big vessel began spinning out of control. The remaining destroyers tried to turn and fight, but the hunter-killers were too fast and too smart. Within minutes, all 4 alien ships were floating dead in space. "Mission complete," Sam reported to Fleet Command. Zephyrian supply convoy destroyed. No survivors detected. Across the galaxy, similar attacks were happening. Human Special Forces teams struck at Zephyrian bases and supply lines. They moved like ghosts, appearing from nowhere to destroy important targets, then vanishing before help could arrive. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster led her team against a major shipyard in the Altair system. Her 12 soldiers wore new stealth suits that made them nearly invisible. They planted explosives throughout the facility while Zephyrian workers slept. When the charges went off, the entire shipyard disappeared in a ball of fire. "Target destroyed," Amy reported as her team escaped in their small transport ship. The Zephyrians just lost the ability to build new battleships for at least 2 years. Major Chris Evans and his commandos attacked a Zephyrian communication center on a moon near their home system. They needed to capture it intact to steal enemy messages and battle plans. The facility was supposed to be impossible to assault. It was built inside a mountain with thousands of guards. Chris and his team used new drilling equipment to tunnel up through the moon's rock. They came up inside the communication center itself, bypassing all the defenses. The Zephyrian technicians were so surprised they barely had time to scream before the humans stunned them unconscious. "We have access to their entire communication network," Chris reported to command. "We can read every message they send to their fleets." The Zephyrians began to panic. Their ships were being destroyed faster than they could count. Their bases were exploding. Their secret messages were being intercepted. They had no idea how the humans were doing it. Admiral Veltar, who had planned the attack on the human colonies, called an emergency meeting with his staff. "How are they everywhere at once?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said the humans had limited military capability." His aide, Kethvar, showed him reports from across their empire. "Sir, they're small. Unit tactics are unlike anything we have ever seen. They seem to operate without orders from their commanders. Each team makes its own decisions. It is very confusing." Veltar's head crest turned dark with worry. In Zephyrian society, every soldier had to ask permission before doing anything. The idea that individual humans could make battle decisions on their own was impossible for him to understand. "And their weapons," Kethvar continued. "They are far more advanced than anything we detected during the peace talks. These hunter-killer missiles adapt to our defenses. Our shields cannot stop them." On a mining station in the Ross system, Captain Danny Walsh received new orders from Earth Command. His crew had been mining asteroids for rare metals. Now they were told to use their mining charges as weapons against Zephyrian patrol ships. "Men," Danny told his crew, "we are not soldiers. We are miners. But those alien murderers killed our families. Today we show them that humans know how to use explosives for more than just breaking rocks." The mining ship Prospector looked harmless to the Zephyrian patrol that stopped it. The aliens thought they were capturing civilian workers. Instead, they found themselves facing men who had spent their lives working with dangerous equipment in the most hostile environments imaginable. Tiwao. Zephyrians boarded the mining ship expecting to find frightened civilians. They found humans who had turned their industrial tools into weapons. Mining lasers became rifles. Cargo haulers became missile launchers. Rock-breaking charges became bombs. The alien boarding party was wiped out in minutes. The Zephyrian patrol ships tried to escape. But the human miners used their cargo ships like battering rams, smashing the alien vessels with the same efficiency they used to break apart asteroids. "This is Captain Walsh," Danny reported to Fleet Command. "Zephyrian patrol eliminated, no human casualties. We are ready for the next target." Similar stories were being repeated across human space. Ordinary people who had been living peaceful lives were becoming warriors. They used their civilian skills in ways the Zephyrians could never predict. Doctors became experts at disabling alien life support systems. Engineers turned construction equipment into siege weapons. Even farmers used their knowledge of chemistry to create new types of explosives. The Zephyrian Empire was learning that attacking humans had been the worst mistake in their long history. They had expected to fight a weak species that knew only peace. Instead, they were fighting a species that had chosen peace but had never forgotten how to wage war. And the humans were just getting started. The first big space battle happened in the Vega system. Zephyrian Admiral Morthak brought over 200 warships with him. It was the largest war fleet in their empire's history. He came to destroy what he thought would be humanity's last, desperate fight. Instead, he found Admiral Jake Morrison waiting with only 60 human ships. The human fleet looked tiny compared to the massive Zephyrian armada. Morthak felt confident. His ships outnumbered the humans more than 3 to 1. Human vessels. Morthak sent a message on all radio channels. You are badly outnumbered. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Jake Morrison's answer was heard by every ship in both fleets. Admiral, you made two mistakes. First, you killed our children. Second, you think numbers matter more than skill. The battle began with Morthak's ships moving forward in their traditional wall formation. This was how Zephyrians had fought for centuries. They would advance in a straight line and overwhelm their enemies with massive firepower. It had worked against every species they had ever fought. The humans did something completely different. The human ships moved like a school of fish, flowing and changing direction together. Captain Kelly Wright in the cruiser, Thunderbolt led her squadron in what looked like a suicide attack straight at the center of the Zephyrian formation. Just when it seemed her ships would be destroyed, they suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. "What is that?" Morthak shouted at his sensor operator. "No ship can move that fast." The human ships were powered by new quantum engines. These engines used controlled reactions that gave the ships speed and maneuverability no other species had ever achieved. The human vessels could stop, turn, and accelerate in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. While the Zephyrians were still trying to understand what they were seeing, human fighter ships appeared among their formation like angry hornets. These were the new Valkyrie-class fighters, each one piloted by a human whose mind was connected directly to the ship's computer through neural links. Commander Steve Parker led Valkyrie Squadron Alpha through the enemy fleet. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to make turns and attacks that would have killed any normal pilot. His quantum torpedoes were guided by artificial intelligence that learned from every shot fired, becoming more accurate with each battle. "Target the big ships first," Steve told his pilots over the radio. "Let's show them what happens when you mess with human families." The Valkyries moved through the Zephyrian fleet like deadly dancers. They were too fast and too small for the alien weapons to hit. But their torpedoes found their targets again and again. Zephyrian battleships that had seemed invincible began exploding one after another. Morthak watched in horror as his carefully planned attack fell apart. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their ships are impossibly fast. Their weapons—" "Ignore our shields." His tactical officer was studying the sensor readings with growing fear. "Sir, I think we have been very wrong about human technology. These are not the simple exploration ships we observed during the peace talks. These are pure war machines. The real shock came when the human dreadnought Earthshaker revealed its main weapon. The entire front section of the massive ship opened, like a flower. Inside was a cannon so large it seemed impossible that any ship could carry it. "All ships move away from the Earthshaker," Jake Morrison ordered his fleet. "Firing dark matter cannon in 10 seconds. Dark matter was the mysterious substance that made up most of the universe. Human scientists had learned to concentrate it and fire it as a weapon. When the Earthshaker fired its first shot, 3 Zephyrian battleships simply disappeared. They were not destroyed in explosions. They were erased from existence as if they had never been there at all. "Impossible," Morthak whispered. "No species has ever weaponized dark matter." The second shot from the Earthshaker tore through his flagship's shields like they were made of paper. The beam cut through the ship's hull, destroying its power core and life support systems. Morthak had just enough time to realize that humanity had been hiding technologies beyond his understanding before his ship lost power and began drifting dead in space. The battle lasted only 2 hours. When it was over, 183 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed. Only 17 managed to escape and jump to hyperspace. The human fleet had lost only 3 ships. "This is Admiral Morrison to all surviving Zephyrian vessels," Jake broadcast as the enemy ships fled. "Tell your leaders what you saw here today. Tell them that this was just the beginning. We are coming for everyone who participated in the murder of our people." Captain Kelly Wright brought her damaged cruiser alongside the Earthshaker. Her ship had taken several hits, but her crew was celebrating their victory. "Sir," she reported to Admiral Morrison, "my engineers want to know if we can salvage any of the Zephyrian technology." "Negative," Jake replied. "We don't need their technology. What we have is better. Send salvage crews to look for survivors instead. Even after what they did to us, we don't leave wounded enemies to die in space. This order confused the human crews, but they obeyed. Rescue ships moved among the wreckage, pulling Zephyrian survivors from their destroyed vessels. The aliens were treated in human medical bays and given food and water. One young Zephyrian officer, badly injured in the battle, asked his human doctor a question. "Why are you helping us?" "We killed your people." Dr. Nancy Miller, who was treating the aliens' burns, looked at him with sad eyes. "Because that's the difference between us and you. We don't murder the helpless, but don't mistake our mercy for weakness. We're saving you today because it's right. Tomorrow we're going to destroy your empire because that's also right." News of the Battle of Vega spread across the galaxy faster than the surviving Zephyrian ships could carry it. Other alien species who had been watching the war with interest suddenly became very nervous. The humans had revealed military technology that was centuries ahead of anything else in the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed invincible for thousands of years, was now facing an enemy they could not defeat in open battle. Their only hope was to retreat to their home system and prepare for a siege. But Jake Morrison had no intention of giving them time to prepare. The human fleet was already moving toward Zephyr Prime, and they were bringing every weapon they had ever built. The final battle took place at Zephyr Prime, the home world of an empire that had ruled this part of the galaxy for 3,000 years. The planet's defenses had never been tested in real war. No enemy had ever come this deep into Zephyrian space. Admiral Jake Morrison arrived with every ship humanity could gather. The fleet included not just military vessels, but converted civilian ships that had been given weapons. Cargo haulers carried missiles. Passenger liners had been turned into troop transports. Even old mining ships now bristled with guns. Every human who could hold a weapon had volunteered to fight. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet," he broadcast to the planet below. "Your government murdered 30 million of our people. You have 1 hour to surrender without conditions." The answer came from Emperor Zelthok himself, speaking from his palace on the planet's surface. "Humans, you have surprised us with your violence, but you cannot stand against the full power of our empire. Leave now, and we will make your end swift." Jake's reply would be remembered in human history alongside the greatest speeches ever made. "Your Majesty, you do not understand the situation. This is not a negotiation. This is justice." The battle for Zephyr Prime began at dawn. The planet's massive defense platforms had been built to stop invasion fleets of thousands of ships. They fired energy beams that could cut through the largest battleships, but the human weapons seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Quantum torpedoes passed through Zephyrian shields as if they were not there. Dark matter cannons collapsed the power cores of defense stations. Human Marines in powered armor landed on platforms that were supposed to be impossible to board. Lieutenant Colonel Bobby Chen led the assault on Defense Platform 7. His Marines wore armor that made them stronger and faster than any normal human. They could survive in the vacuum of space, and their weapons could punch through any material the Zephyrians had ever made. "Remember why we're here," Bobby told his troops as their transport ships approached the platform. "Every person on this station helped plan the murder of our children. Show them what happens when you make enemies of humans." The Zephyrian defenders fought bravely, but they were not prepared for human soldiers who seemed impossible to kill. The powered armor made the Marines nearly invulnerable to alien weapons. When a Marine was hit, the armor would repair itself and keep the soldier fighting. Platform 7 fell in 20 minutes. Platforms 8 and 9 lasted even less time. Within 2 hours, all of the planet's orbital defenses had been destroyed or captured. Emperor Zelthok watched from his throne room as human ships descended through his planet's atmosphere like falling stars. His advisors were panicking, but he sat calmly, finally understanding what his empire had awakened. "My lord," said his chief general, "we should evacuate you to the emergency bunkers." "No," Zelthok replied quietly. "There is nowhere to run from. We killed their children. They will not stop until we pay for that crime." The moment that broke the Zephyrian Empire's will came when Captain Sarah Blake approached the Imperial Palace in her converted freighter. New Hope. Her ship had once carried grain to hungry colonies. Now it was loaded with quantum charges and piloted by volunteers who had lost everything in the colony attacks. "This is Captain Blake to all human forces," she broadcast as her ship entered the planet's atmosphere. "My crew and I are making the final run. For everyone who died on New Haven. For all the children who will never grow up." Her ship glowed white-hot as it fell through the thick atmosphere. Zephyrian fighters tried to stop her, but human escort ships drove them away. Nothing was going to prevent Sarah Blake from completing her mission. Emperor Zelthok stood at his palace window and watched the human ship approach. In that moment, he finally understood what his species had done. These humans did not fight for territory or treasure or glory. They fought for each other. They would die for each other without hesitation. The New Hope's final message was short: for New Haven, for the children. The explosion that followed destroyed the Imperial Palace and sent shockwaves around the planet. The blast could be seen from orbit, a pillar of fire that reached into the sky like the anger of an entire species. Within hours, Zephyrian governments on 17 different worlds were surrendering to human forces. The empire that had seemed unbeatable for millennia collapsed in a single day. The war that the Zephyrians expected to last for decades ended in 3 months. In the peace talks that followed, the surviving Zephyrian leaders learned that humanity's terms were surprisingly fair. They would be allowed to keep their core worlds, but they would pay for the damage they had done and accept human observers to make sure they never started another war. "Why?" asked the new Zephyrian Prime Minister Korthus during the treaty signing. "Your species has the power to destroy us completely. Why show mercy?" Admiral Morrison, now serving as humanity's chief negotiator, looked at the alien leader with eyes that had seen too much death. "Because that is who we are. We are not conquerors. We are builders. We plant seeds and help them grow. But when someone tries to burn down our garden, they learn that gardeners know exactly where to keep the sharpest tools." The human-Zephyrian War became a turning point for the entire galaxy. Other aggressive species watched the fate of an empire that had seemed invincible and decided that peaceful relations with humanity were much better than testing their military strength. Earth's children returned to their work of exploration and discovery, but now every species they met knew the truth. Humans were the most dangerous gardeners in the galaxy, and their mercy was a gift that should never be taken for granted. The memorial built on the rebuilt New Haven colony carried a simple message, carved in stone. To those who learned too late that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons but our willingness to use them for each other. Children played in the gardens that grew where cities had once burned. Parents told them stories of the war and of the price that those who harm innocents must always pay. And among the stars, human ships continued their peaceful missions, carrying with them the quiet promise that mercy was always humanity's first choice, but never their only choice.